Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Once in a while, I get a story sent to me by a lot of people, and this is such a story. I'll read the full list at the end because it is voluminous, but every time I look at my emails, more emails saying, Steve, check this out, check this out, check this out. And it's because it ties into the topic I've talked about before. I mentioned a story a while back about a guy who found a device attached to his car. And whether he knew what it was or not, we're not sure. But the point is that he knew he didn't put it there. And so he removed the device from his car. And the device turned out to be a tracking device placed there by the police. Now, the police had gotten a warrant, no question. So a lot of people tell me, they say, Steve, problem number one is the police broke the law. Well, they actually didn't break the law technically because they went and got a warrant, which gave them permission to put the tracker on the car. So some judge signed off and said, yes, you can put a tracking device on this guy's car. But they didn't tell him about it, obviously. And so when he found the tracking device, said, what's that? And he removed it. He didn't break any laws, as the courts later ruled. So there's a conflict there because that's one of the things that could happen when you surreptitiously place something on someone's car and they find it. And they go, that's odd. I didn't put that there. And a lot of people would assume that it's, something bad, nefarious. Why is that thing stuck to my car? So a news story out of Louisiana. Woman finds tracking device on car, and now the Louisiana State Police want it back. Chris Nakamoto wrote it for WBRZ Channel 2, which is the ABC affiliate down there. And a woman who was recently arrested for drugs said she found a tracking device on her car over the weekend. And the two are actually not as related as you'd think from that sentence. So she said she watched law enforcement officers place it on her car on Friday. One of the whole things about placing a covert surveillance device in someone's car is to do it in such a way they don't see you doing it. So she said she sat there and watched them put it on her car, and she's like, huh? The device was under the passenger side of her car is a black box with a lithium battery inside and a large magnet, and the magnet allows it to stick to the car. She said she was arrested last month on drug charges, but on Wednesday, she said 5 law enforcement officers who identified themselves as state troopers showed up at her door asking about a person she knew. The person wasn't there, but she said that she filed a complaint with the police over the way they handled it that evening. So she says, look, these guys came to my house asking about somebody. I said, he's not here, can't help you. But they handled it, she says, so rudely that she went and filed a complaint. So, this is one of those things. I wasn't there. You weren't there. We don't know. But, I think we've all filed complaints against the police, haven't we? 2 days later, she said she saw some men in her gated apartment complex. And this is the key. It's an apartment complex. You might see people out in the parking lot hanging around, lingering, loitering, loafing. But the point is that if it's a gated apartment complex, you'd see fewer people out there, presumably, other than the people you might recognize who belong there. So she said that she saw some men in her complex hovering around her car. And again, that's a problem because, I go places, I park my car, and as I walk away, I glance back. If I see someone hanging around by my car, it makes me a little worried. Doesn't happen a lot, but, you do watch for that. So they were hovering around her car, and then a day later, she said she noticed the tracking device. So the next day, she spots this tracking device, and she said, I panicked. I didn't know if it was a bomb, but then I did find out it was a tracker. So again, and this is one of the most common comments that I got on the various tracking stories I did regarding the tracker that the guy removed from his own car. People said, how do I know what it is? How do I know what it is? Does it say covert tracking device, do not remove? Is it like the tag on your pillow, do not remove under penalty of law? So the question is, what would you do? You see this weird device stuck to your car. So she contacted the NAACP, and someone from there got involved, was helping her with this, and state police contacted him saying, we want that device back. He said, they asked me to return the box. And it could make the situation more difficult for me. And that's the question. If the box disappears, okay, it could have fallen off. It could have gotten scraped off. It could have gotten stolen. Someone could have walked by and said, hey, there's a weird thing on this car, but it looks like it's only stuck on the magnet. I think I'll take it. Who knows? Who knows? So the point is, they said, we want it back. Now, here's the interesting thing. I should have a little thing that flashes on the screen that says pro tip, to let you know that I'm about to give you some legal pro tip advice. Absolute non sequitur, but I think it's funny. So if you walk into a police station and go, here, they go, oh, you're in possession of something. You're in possession of something. So it depends on what you're handing them. But if there is a law called possession of whatever it is you're handing them, and is a legal term, then you are in possession of it, and they witnessed it with their own eyes. It's a real easy conviction. So you want to be careful about just walking into a police station going, here, look what I got. Again, pro tip. So he said they asked me to return the box. It could make the situation more difficult for me. And so he's saying, look, I'm not involved in this. She called me for help. I simply asked a few questions, and now they're asking me to return it. So the investigative unit from the TV station, WBRZ, Channel 2, out of Baton Rouge, said that the investigative unit found the device attached to a pole across the street from a middle school nearby. And then state police issued the following statement. And we'll go back. Upon speaking with our detectives, this is part of an ongoing investigation involving this woman and a suspect with federal warrants. As part of the investigative process, a warrant was obtained for the surveillance equipment. Upon the conclusion of the investigation, further information will be available regarding charges and investigative documents. So they say they got a warrant. They had the right to place it there, okay? Now, somehow it wound up on a pole across the street from a middle school. How it got there, we don't know. Could be a time of the year. Maybe it migrated. Maybe these things go south for the winter and go north for the summer. I don't know. It could have gotten scraped off. If the woman had been out drifting her car and drifted just right, she could have scraped it off. It's on the passenger side, so I guess she'd be making a hard left. Could have scraped it off while drifting. But the point is that it was on the car, and now it's on a pole. And unless we develop further facts or the ongoing investigation provides us something, this might be one of those questions that we'll never know the answer to. How did the tracker get from the car to the pole? Who knows? Who knows? With few answers about what the tracker was for, the woman appears to have circumvented whatever the state police were trying to do. But meanwhile, the man who's helping her said, it's Bush League. The fact that a young woman can see you doing something like this means you're not very good at it. And I guess, the first question I would have if I was, asked about this whole operation, does it take 5 guys to install the tracker? Presumably, if you get a warrant, the warrant describes the vehicle, it describes the person, it probably describes where the car is likely parked. All it would take, I would think, assuming that the tracker can be carried by one person, it would take one person to walk over, stick it on the car, and walk away. The 5 guys, it might take 5 guys to make burgers and fries, but it shouldn't take 5 guys to install a tracker. So there is some kind of Keystone Cops element to this, but this gets us back to the original point. And that is the guy I talked about before, I think it was in Indiana, who found the tracker on his car and took it off. And they came back later and tried to say he'd broken the law by removing a tracker from his car. And it had been placed there with a warrant. A warrant had allowed them to do that, but they didn't tell him that. And since he didn't know that, you simply found this thing stuck to his car, guess what? And so the court there ruled and said, no, you have the right to do that if that's based on those facts. So here, the woman sees some people hanging around her car. Next thing she knows, there's something stuck to it. And somewhere down the road, it gets stuck to a pole down the street. Interesting thing about a tracker is that the police can find it. And that actually kind of hurts their case here. Because I've had a lot of people say, Steve, I would take that tracker and put it in the road and then run over it a few times. And the thing is that if you ran it over a few times, assuming we can prove those facts, you are then damaging the property, and the question is whether you're breaking law there. But here, the tracker simply went from the car to the pole. The police found it in the condition in which they attached it to the car, apparently. So therefore, no harm, no foul, I would think. Unless there's some wacky tracker protection statute in Louisiana. I don't think there is. So here's the thing. If they have a warrant to place the tracker, they're not breaking the law by placing the tracker. If you were one of the people who had a tracker stuck on your car by the police, pursuant to a warrant, presumably somewhere down the road, you can take a look at the warrant if a case litigates, and discover what it is that they were looking for and what right they had to do it. And they have to file an affidavit with a judge that says, here is all the reasons that we think we have probable cause to do this investigation like this and get a warrant to do this. And so they would get the warrant issued and install a tracker. So the placement of the tracker itself with a warrant obviously is not against the law. However, simple question becomes, what do you do if you find the tracker? Okay? And like I said, if the tracker simply gets removed and the police can track it and recover it, I don't really see what's going on there. That would be a violation of the law. But I admit I'm not licensed in Louisiana, so I can't speak to the specific case. I'm speaking in generalities here. But my pro tip, again, going back to the beginning, my pro tip is if the police ask you to bring something to the police station, be aware of the fact that when you walk in there and go, hey, look what I've got, at that exact moment in time, they are witnessing you in possession of something. So be very, very careful. Pro tip. So there you go. So woman finds tracking device on car. Louisiana State Police want it back. WBRZ reported it. Chris Nakamoto wrote it. That's Channel 2, ABC. And it was sent to me by, ready for this? Becky, Barbara, Matthew, Lee, Troy, Jay, David, Chuck, Timothy, Kevin, Steve, not me, and Ed. So one more time. Becky, Barbara, Matthew, Lee, Troy, Jay, Steve, not me, David, Chuck, Timothy, Kevin, and Ed. Thanks a lot, guys. Questions or comments, put them below. Otherwise, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. What do I know of man's destiny? I could tell you more about radishes.